He was humiliated by the girl he loved. 2 years later, he got his revenge. Ethan Parker stood at the edge of the gymnasium, the beat of the music thudding against his chest like a war drum. Lights flashed, balloons floated above, and the faint scent of cologne, sweat, and cheap punch hung in the air. But Ethan was too focused to notice any of it. His palms were sweaty. His heart raced like it was trying to escape his chest. In his trembling hands was a bouquet of white roses, slightly wrinkled from the death grip he'd had on them all night. He kept adjusting the collar of his second-hand button-down shirt, which strained across his broad shoulders and soft belly. He was 17, 6'4", and at least 320 pounds. The kind of kid people didn't just see, they noticed. Not because they wanted to, but because he took up space, literally and socially, in a world where invisibility was a privilege reserved for the average. Tonight was winter formal. A night meant for magic, for memories, for teenage dreams to come true. And for Ethan, it was supposed to be the night he finally told Madison how he felt. He'd watched her from afar since sophomore year. The way she twirled her pen between her fingers in English class. The way she made everyone laugh with her quick, sparkly wit. And that laugh, it was beautiful. It made his stomach do somersaults. He'd practiced this moment for weeks, memorized the lines, worked up the courage, told himself it was now or never. And there she was, Madison Rivera, standing in a circle of glitter and giggles, her red sequin dress clinging to every curve. Her honey blonde hair cascaded down her back, glowing under the string lights. Her lips glistened cherry red, and her heels sparkled as if her feet had never touched the ground. Ethan took a breath and stepped forward. Each step felt like walking through cement. As he approached, the music seemed to fade, replaced by the sound of blood rushing through his ears. He didn't notice the way her friends were watching him. He didn't see the way they leaned in, whispering, exchanging glances. All he saw was her. "Hey, Madison." She turned. Her eyes landed on him, first confused, then mildly amused. "Oh, hey, Ethan?" His cheeks burned. She remembered his name. That was a good sign, right? He held out the roses, his voice trembling. "I think you look beautiful tonight. I was wondering if maybe you'd like to dance." Madison stared. The girls behind her fell silent. For a moment, the entire gym felt like it was holding its breath. Then, slowly, she reached for the bouquet. Ethan's heart soared. Maybe, just maybe, this was really happening. But then, she laughed. Not the warm, sunny laugh he loved from across classrooms. This one was sharp, cold, practiced. "Oh my God, you actually did it," she said. Ethan blinked. "What?" She turned to her friends. "Alyssa, you owe me $20. I told you he'd fall for it." The gym exploded in laughter. Phones came out. Someone was already recording. Ethan's ears rang. His vision blurred. The roses slipped from his hand, falling to the floor in a sad pile. "This was a dare?" he asked, voice small. "A bet," Madison said, smirking. "I bet I could get the giant to ask me out. Didn't even take much. You're predictable." People laughed harder. Someone shouted, "Yo, tag me in the video." Another yelled, "King Kong got rejected." And then came the worst part. Brady Collins, the quarterback and Madison's on-and-off boyfriend, stepped forward from behind the crowd and wrapped his arm around her waist. "Better luck next lifetime, big guy." Ethan didn't remember leaving the gym. He only remembered the cold air outside, the ache in his chest, and the sound of laughter still echoing in his ears like a cruel lullaby. That night, He walked home in silence, crumpled roses in hand. He passed store windows, mirrors, and glass doors, each one a reflection of the boy no one loved. At home, he locked himself in his room, logged onto Instagram, and saw it. The video, uploaded, tagged, reposted. Ethan Parker, biggest rejection ever, rolling on the floor laughing skull. 30,000 views in one night. He deleted his account. And then, for the first time in years, he cried. Not the quiet tears of a boy having a bad day, but the raw, heaving sobs of someone completely undone. And then he made a vow. He would never be that boy again. For the rest of junior year, Ethan disappeared. He stopped speaking in class, ate lunch in the library, avoided the hallways during peak hours. Teachers worried. Some tried to talk to him. He brushed them off. Even his parents didn't understand. Ignore them, his mother said. You're better than that. But she didn't know what it felt like to be laughed at by hundreds. To be the meme of the week. The school joke. By summer, he'd stopped speaking to anyone at school at all. Instead, he read, wrote, trained. Late at night, when everyone slept, he watched YouTube workout videos and started following beginner strength routines. He taught himself about caloric intake, discipline, mental resilience. He didn't want to get skinny. He wanted to get dangerous. He joined a local gym under a fake name. No one there knew him. He was just a large, quiet boy who lifted in silence and left without a word. By fall, the fat began to shift. By winter, the whispers of muscle peeked through. By spring, he was lifting twice his weight. His skin cleared. His eyes hardened. His heart didn't feel as broken. And by summer before senior year, Ethan Parker was a ghost with a plan. August 23rd, first day of senior year. Ethan walked through the front gates of Ridgewood High in a black hoodie, joggers, and Nikes. Headphones in. Hood up. Shoulders squared. He was taller. Still massive. But this time the mass was muscle, dense, deliberate, intimidating. His jawline was sharper. His neck was thick. His walk had purpose. At first, no one noticed. Then someone whispered, "Wait, is that?" Two freshmen moved aside as he passed. In the cafeteria, heads turned. People stared. Some squinted. Madison nearly choked on her iced coffee when she saw him walk past her table. "No way," Alyssa gasped. "That's not him." But it was. And Madison knew it the moment their eyes met. For the first time, she was the one staring. Ethan gave her a brief glance, a nod. No smile, no hate, just cold indifference. And he kept walking. Within a week, Ethan was the talk of the school. Girls started whispering about him. Football players invited him to sit with them. Teachers complimented his writing, his discipline, his clarity. He joined no clubs. He didn't party. He rarely spoke, except in class where his answers were thoughtful and sharp. Even the bullies seemed uncertain. He didn't engage. But he wasn't hiding anymore either. And when the senior showcase was announced, a school-wide event where students could submit films, art, or performances, Ethan signed up for the film category. His project title? The Anatomy of Cruelty. Madison approached him 1 week before the showcase. "Hey," she said, cornering him by the media room. "Do you have a second?" Ethan turned, looked at her. She was still beautiful, more so even, but something about her looked small, less invincible. "What do you want?" he asked flatly. "I just wanted to say hi, and maybe apologize." He said nothing. "I was a stupid kid. Back then. I didn't know what I was doing. It was just a joke. And I guess I never really thought about how it made you feel." "You didn't," he replied. You still don't. Her face tensed. That's not fair. He stepped closer. Not threatening, just towering. You never cared about how I felt. You cared that people are finally seeing who you really are. She didn't respond. Ethan leaned in slightly. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to tell the truth. If that hurts your image, that's not my problem. And then he walked away, leaving Madison frozen, humiliated for the first time. The night of the senior showcase arrived. Students and parents filled the auditorium. Teachers wore suits. Cameras clicked. Ethan sat in the back row, hood down, hands calm. One by one, performances played. Songs, dances, poems. Then last on the list, his name. The Anatomy of Cruelty, directed by Ethan Parker. The room went dark. A soft piano played. The film opened with black and white footage of empty school hallways. A voiceover began, Ethan's. We tell kids that high school doesn't matter, that these years are fleeting. But for some of us, they shape everything. Clips rolled. Silent bullying. Shoving. Mockery. Students shared anonymous confessions in subtitles. They called me Piggy for 3 years. They filmed me crying in the bathroom. I stopped eating lunch. I stopped talking. Then the video. Madison. Ethan. The bouquet. The laughter. A full 30 seconds of unedited humiliation. Then silence. Then Ethan's voice. Sometimes the worst monsters wear the prettiest masks. But monsters don't scare me anymore. I outgrew them. The screen faded to black. Applause didn't come immediately. The audience sat frozen. And then, like a wave, clapping. Cheers. Some people stood. Mr. Davis wiped a tear. And Madison? She sat in the center row. Stone still. Exposed. Not by anger, but by truth. The applause continued, rolling like thunder through the Ridgewood High auditorium. But Ethan didn't smile. He didn't stand. He sat in the last row, arms crossed, eyes calm. To him, it wasn't about applause. It was about release. Years of carrying shame, of shrinking himself to fit behind silence and shadows. This was the exhale after holding his breath for 2 years. For the first time in a long time, Ethan didn't feel small. Up front, Madison sat frozen. She didn't clap. She couldn't. Alyssa whispered something, but Madison didn't respond. Her throat was dry. Her heart pounded not from guilt, but fear. Everyone had seen it. Everyone had heard the voiceover. The statistics. The poetry of pain that echoed her cruelty like a mirror to her soul. She glanced to her left. Brady was staring straight ahead. His jaw clenched. To her right, Mrs. Ramirez, the art teacher, shook her head in disappointment. Madison lowered her gaze. The queen had fallen, and she felt the weight of every crown she had stolen crumble on her shoulders. By Monday morning, the air in school had changed. Ethan walked through the halls not as a ghost, but a name, a symbol. Whispers followed him, but not the mocking kind. They were laced with respect, curiosity, awe. Someone had taped a quote from his film to the bulletin board outside the media room. Monsters don't scare me anymore. I outgrew them. In English class, Ms. Jeffries asked him to share what inspired his project. Ethan hesitated for a second, then spoke clearly. Being humiliated, he said, and realizing that the only way to survive it was to turn it into something that made me stronger. A few students clapped. Some nodded. Madison, seated in the back, avoided his eyes. During lunch, people offered him seats. Football players fist-bumped him in the hallway. Even Coach Mendez stopped him. You ever thought about joining track? We could use your size on the throwing team. I'll think about it, Ethan said with a polite nod. But deep down, he didn't care about sports or sudden friendships. He cared about truth. And for once, he didn't have to beg anyone to listen. While Ethan rose quietly, Madison spiraled. Her DMs were flooded with screenshots. Classmates posted side-by-side comparisons of her red dress at the winter formal and the humiliation scene from Ethan's film. TikToks trended under hashtags like hashtag high school queen no more and hashtag cruelty caught on cam. She tried to fight back at first. "It was 2 years ago," she posted. "I was 16 and stupid. I already apologized. But it didn't work." The comments didn't forgive. "That's not an apology. You ruined someone and called it a game. Why is this giving Regina George with a ring light?" Worse, her sponsorships began to disappear. A skincare brand she had partnered with DM'd her privately, "Given recent backlash, we are terminating our collab agreement. We hope you take this opportunity to reflect." Brady avoided her. Her friend group shrank. Alyssa stopped texting altogether. By Thursday, Madison sat alone during lunch, scrolling through her feed with trembling fingers. She saw Ethan's name in a local article titled, "High School Student Turns Bullying into Powerful Film," with a still of her, mid-laugh, in that damn red dress. She threw her phone in her locker and sat down on the floor, pressing her forehead to her knees. For the first time, she didn't feel pretty. She felt seen in the worst way. That Friday, Ethan found a note in his locker, folded neatly. No name. He opened it. "I want to talk. Please. It's not about me." Hem. He stared at it for a long moment. Then curiosity won. He texted her an address. A small park 2 blocks from school. Secluded. Quiet. When she arrived that evening, she looked different. No makeup. Hoodie. Ponytail. She walked slowly toward the bench where Ethan sat with his hands in his pockets. She sat beside him but didn't speak immediately. He didn't offer a greeting. The silence stretched. Finally, Madison whispered, "Do you hate me?" Ethan looked ahead, not at her. "I did," he said. She swallowed. "I deserve that." He didn't respond. "I know you probably think this is just damage control," she said. "And maybe part of it is. But it's also, I don't know. I keep thinking about how I laughed, how I enjoyed it. And the worst part is, back then, I didn't even feel bad. Not for 1 second." He raised an eyebrow. "At least you're honest." Madison nodded, tears clinging to her lashes. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said. "I just needed to tell you that I remember. And I'm sorry, really, for what I did, for making you feel worthless, for turning your kindness into a punchline." Ethan finally looked at her, and she flinched not because he was angry, but because she couldn't read him at all. "I don't need you to feel guilty," he said. "Guilt fades. I needed you to see me." Madison blinked. "I see you now." Ethan stood. "I'm not the boy from that night anymore, Madison. And you're not the girl who can hurt me." He walked away. She sat on the bench, tears falling freely now, staring at the empty path ahead. That night, Ethan didn't feel victorious. He felt light. He walked home under a pink-orange sky, headphones in, backpack slung low. The pain was still there. Memories didn't erase, but it no longer defined him. He passed the same mirror in the same corner store window where 2 years ago he saw a boy who wanted to disappear. Now he saw a man who chose to stand tall. A week later, during homeroom, Ethan found another envelope in his locker. This one was sealed, handwritten. Inside was a single piece of notebook paper. "Ethan, you don't owe me anything, but I owe you everything. Not just an apology, but the truth. I laughed at you because I hated myself, because I was dating someone who cheated on me constantly, and I was afraid to leave, because everyone expected me to be perfect, and I didn't know how to be real. You were real and kind, and I destroyed that because I was scared of anyone who wasn't pretending like I was. You didn't just grow, you healed, and I hope one day I can say the same. Ethan folded the letter and put it in his backpack. He never replied, but he never threw it away either, because sometimes revenge isn't about making someone else hurt. It's about never letting them hold your power again. And Ethan? He had all the power now. The story was supposed to end with the showcase, with truth told, pain released, and power reclaimed. But Ethan Parker's film, The Anatomy of Cruelty, refused to fade into silence. 3 days after the senior showcase, a woman in a pantsuit showed up in the school lobby with a cameraman in tow. Her name was Kayla Hughes, and she was a local news anchor for Channel 5. Mr. Davis found Ethan in the media lab, editing a personal project. "There's someone here to see you," he said, eyes wide with amusement. "Wants an interview." From TV. Ethan looked up from his screen. "Me? You're famous now, Parker." He didn't feel famous, just tired. Still, he followed Mr. Davis to the lobby. Kayla Hughes smiled the moment she saw him. "You must be Ethan. I saw your film. It's raw, honest, and frankly, more impactful than most documentaries we air in prime time." Ethan blinked. "You saw it?" "A parent sent it in, and now the whole city has." The interview aired that weekend. 5 minutes of Ethan sitting stiffly on a plastic chair in the school library, answering questions with quiet grace. "I didn't make the film for attention," he said. "I made it because I needed to be heard, and I guess a lot of other people needed that too." By Monday morning, the video had hit over 1.2 million views on YouTube. Teenagers across the country reposted it. Teachers requested the rights to show it in class. Anti-bullying organizations reached out for collaborations. And Ethan Parker's name was everywhere. While Ethan's story rose like a phoenix, Madison's world continued to crumble. The final blow came during cheer practice when Ms. Reynolds, their coach, pulled her aside. "I think it's best you step down as captain," she said. Madison's lips parted. "What?" "I've received too many complaints. Parents, students, even alumni. I'm not saying you're a bad person, but right now, the team needs a leader who isn't carrying controversy." A week later, Alyssa was voted in as the new captain. Madison sat on the bleachers, watching the new formation from the sidelines. No one looked her way. Ethan hadn't planned to apply to NYU. It was too far, too expensive, too ambitious. But the day after the news story broke, he received an email from a film studies professor at Tisch. "Ethan, we saw your short film and were deeply moved. We'd love to talk more about your goals and consider you for one of our late entry portfolio scholarships." He reread the message 5 times. He forwarded it to his mom, who responded with all caps, "Is this real? Call me now." And for the first time, Ethan allowed himself to wonder, what if my pain has a purpose? Claire. She had soft brown skin, box braids, and quiet eyes. She'd been in Ethan's AP literature class all year, sitting 2 rows behind him, always reading something with a weathered spine. She approached him in the library one afternoon, shy smile tugging at her lips. "I know you don't like attention," she said, "but your film helped me. More than I can say." Ethan blinked. "Thanks. I didn't know you saw it." "I watched it 3 times, she admitted. "It reminded me that my story matters too." They sat for an hour, then 2, and slowly, day by day, Claire became part of his world. A week before graduation, Ridgewood High announced its valedictorian, Ethan Parker. His GPA had narrowly overtaken the previous frontrunner after bonus credit from his media coursework. Madison stared at the announcement in the hallway like it had punched her in the face. A week later, she approached him again. "I heard you're giving the speech," she said. Ethan nodded. "Yeah." She hesitated. "Are you going to talk about me?" Ethan tilted his head. "Is that what you're worried about?" "I'm just asking." He studied her. "No, Madison. I already told that story. I don't need to tell it again." She looked down. "I guess. I was hoping you'd say that." Ethan nodded once and walked away. No venom. No victory. Just peace. The stadium was packed. Families cheered, tassels flew, and the June sun burned bright on every cap and gown. Ethan stood at the podium in a crisp black suit, valedictorian sash across his chest. He took a deep breath, then spoke. "2 years ago, I wanted to disappear. I thought that's what people like me were supposed to do. Take up less space. Be quiet. Accept being stepped on. But then I realized something. Pain is only powerful when we give it the last word. So I rewrote mine. I don't want to be remembered for the worst moment of my life. I want to be remembered as someone who turned humiliation into healing. And maybe someone else out there will realize they can too." Thunderous applause. Even Madison clapped, tears in her eyes. Claire met him offstage with a smile and a long, warm hug. "You did it," she whispered. "No," Ethan said, grinning. "We did." Ethan's last summer before college was quiet. He got a job at a bookstore, wrote short stories at night, took long walks with Claire and tried new things, ice cream flavors, public speaking, even TikTok. He stayed offline mostly, but sometimes when he saw a comment under his film from a stranger across the world, he smiled. Because it meant someone was listening. The night before he left for New York, he stood in front of his bathroom mirror, same one from 2 years ago, same corner of the same house. But the reflection, unrecognizable, not because of weight or muscle, but because of the light in his eyes, the calm, the strength. He whispered to his past self, "You made it." The city pulsed with energy. Car horns, subway grumbles, voices in a dozen languages. It was a living, breathing storm, and Ethan Parker stood in the middle of it with 2 suitcases and a racing heart. NYU's Tisch School of the Arts loomed ahead. Big glass doors, bright banners, his future. He checked in, collected his dorm keys, and was guided to a room on the 7th floor of Founders Hall. It was small, 2 twin beds, a single window, but to Ethan it was freedom. He dropped his bags, sat on the mattress, and took a deep breath. He'd made it. He wasn't the fat boy in the hallway anymore. He wasn't the meme. He wasn't even the boy who exposed a bully. Here no one knew him, and that meant he could be anything. Claire arrived a week later, settling into her dorm a few blocks away at Hunter College. They met every few days for late-night strolls and overpriced ramen in tiny shops tucked away from tourists. With her, Ethan didn't feel pressure, didn't feel like he had to prove anything. They studied together, walked through art museums, and sometimes sat on park benches for hours, talking about nothing and everything. One evening, watching the sunset in Central Park, she turned to him and said, "You ever think about how many people you've already helped, without even knowing them?" He shook his head. She smiled. "You don't see it yet, but they do. And I do too." Professor Malik was intense, blunt, and brilliant. Her film theory course was infamous for breaking spirits and turning raw talent into gold. Ethan sat in her class with 12 others, surrounded by students who already had IMDb pages and rich parents. For the first month, he barely spoke, but his assignments, they spoke for him. One day, after a particularly heavy short about silence and trauma, Professor Malik paused the projector, looked directly at him, and said, "Where did you come from?" He gave a small smile. "Maryland. Technically." She pointed a finger. "No. I mean, where did this come from?" Ethan hesitated, pain, and trying not to drown in it. The class went silent, and from that moment on, she pushed him harder than anyone else. Because she saw something, and so did he. It started with a tag, then an email. A journalist had found his old film, The Anatomy of Cruelty, and wanted to include him in a feature on high school filmmakers changing the narrative on bullying. Ethan debated saying no. He didn't want to live in that story forever. But something inside him whispered, "This is bigger than you." So he said yes. The article went live in October. Within 24 hours, his DMs exploded. Teachers from Brazil, students from Ohio, even a mother from South Africa messaged him. One read, "My son was about to quit school. I showed him your film." He cried. Then he signed up for film club. "Thank you." Ethan cried too. Not from sadness, but because it was working. His voice mattered. By November, NYU had invited him to speak at a panel on storytelling and youth activism. It was his first real stage since graduation. He stood behind a podium, fingers gripping the wood, eyes scanning the crowd of professors, students, and journalists. "My name is Ethan Parker," he began, "and I used to think stories were just things we told, until I realized stories are the things that save us." He spoke about bullying, about shame, about becoming more than the boy in the video. The audience was silent, then moved, then on their feet. Claire waited for him backstage with a hug and proud tears. "Remember when you said you didn't know if you had anything important to say?" she whispered. He chuckled. "Yeah." She squeezed his hand. "You were wrong. Over Christmas break." An email. Subject: "I saw the BuzzFeed piece. Hi Ethan. I know we haven't spoken since that day in the park. I'm in college now too. Studying psychology, which I know probably sounds ironic, but I'm learning a lot about how people protect themselves by hurting others, and I realize I used to be one of them. Not a day goes by that I don't think about what I did to you. I don't expect a reply. I just wanted to say, watching you grow helped me finally face who I was. And maybe become someone better. Madison." Ethan stared at the screen. He didn't feel rage or satisfaction. He felt nothing. And then peace. He didn't reply, but he bookmarked it, because it was proof that even the people who break us can change. One snowy night in February, Ethan and Claire sat on a rooftop terrace near campus. Hot cocoa steamed in their hands. The city below glittered like a galaxy. "I need to tell you something," she said softly. He looked over. "I was bullied too," she said. "Not like you, but enough. People made fun of how quiet I was, how much I read. I was called boring, basic. Some days, I believed it." Ethan reached over and took her hand. "You're the most interesting person I've ever met." Claire smiled. "I never felt brave enough to speak up, until I watched you." She turned to him fully. "You gave me that bravery, Ethan." He didn't know what to say, so he kissed her. And in that kiss, he said everything he couldn't. By April, Ethan's next short film was complete. A story about a boy who finds a camera and uses it to rewrite the stories others forced onto him. He titled it, Frame One Me. It premiered at a student showcase and was nominated for 2 awards. The applause was deafening. Professor Malik found him after. "You've grown," she said. "Because you pushed me," Ethan replied. "No," she corrected. "Because you chose to rise." At the end of year media gala, Ethan gave a brief thank you speech after winning Best Narrative Short. He stepped off the stage to grab water. That's when he saw her. In the back row. Madison. She didn't approach. Didn't wave. She just nodded once. A small, respectful gesture. And Ethan? He nodded back, and then walked away smiling. A year later, his first full-length documentary, The Lost Names, premiered on an independent streaming platform. It chronicled teens who had taken their lives due to online bullying and the families they left behind. It made waves, won awards, but most importantly, it started conversations. Ethan gave talks, visited schools, partnered with nonprofits, and wherever he went, he said the same thing. Don't underestimate the quiet ones. We're the ones watching, listening, learning how to turn pain into power. Years passed. Ethan never forgot where he came from, but he refused to live there. He and Claire moved in together after college. She became a therapist. He kept making films. One night, lying in bed with her head on his chest, Claire asked, "Do you ever think about her?" "Madison." She nodded. "Sometimes," Ethan said. "Not with anger, not even with sadness. Just as the person who unknowingly taught me what I'm capable of." Claire kissed his cheek. "You became so much more than that story." And he smiled, because now he knew he had always been more. He just needed time and a reason to rise.